Our reading today comes from John chapter 2, verses 1 to 11. On the third day, there was a wedding in Cana of Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was there. Jesus and his disciples had also been invited to the wedding. When the wine gave out, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, what concern is that to you and to me? My hour has not yet come." His mother said to the servants, "Do whatever he tells you." Now standing there were 6 stone water jars for the Jewish rites of purification, each holding 20 or 30 gallons. Jesus said to them, "Fill the jars with water." And they filled them up to the brim. He said to them, "Now draw some out and take it to the chief steward." So they took it. When the steward tasted the water that had become wine and did not know where it came from, though the servants who had drawn the water knew, the steward called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves the good wine first, and then the inferior wine after the guests have become drunk. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this, the first of his signs in Cana of Galilee, and revealed his glory, and his disciples believed in him. So this is Jesus's first sign and his first public act in the ministry in the Gospel of John. Next week, we'll hear about Jesus's first public act of ministry in the Gospel of Luke. But today, the story of Jesus turning water into wine. Firsts are important. After Christmas, I got to spend a little more than a week with my little niece, Nora. It's been hard being more than 1,000 miles away from her, as she has experienced so many firsts in this first year of her life. But I got to be there for a few important firsts. I got to be there for her first Christmas and her first New Year's Eve. I got to be there for her baptism and for her first birthday. And I got to be there as she received and played with her first fishing pole, something 2 of her grandpas are very excited about. One of the most delightful parts of hanging out with Nora was being able to witness the joy and the wonder as she explores and learns about the world around her, experiencing everything for the first time. She loves to hear the sounds of banging various toys together. She loves to watch and hear what happens when she throws a toy down the stairs between the bars of the baby gate. She loves putting everything in her mouth to experience what different things feel like in her mouth. She loved looking at all the beautiful Christmas lights. And so I imagined what it was like experiencing the world as 1-year-old Nora. Pretty much everything is a first and new and amazing and surprising. Jesus' first sign and his first public act of ministry were also a surprise. In this season of Epiphany, this time between Christmas and Lent, the gospel stories we will hear in worship are stories that reveal who Jesus is. In this story, we learn that Jesus did things in new and unexpected ways. And the unexpected things he did leave us filled with joy and wonder. The first unexpected part of this story is that it was Jesus' mother and her insistence that really got things going in Jesus' ministry. Jesus initially resisted performing this sign of turning water into wine. I think showing his humility, his humanity, Jesus resisted doing this first act of his public ministry. He surely knew that once he started his ministry, he would eventually get to the difficult part and the painful part of his ministry, his crucifixion. He was afraid because once he started this journey of his ministry, there would be no avoiding his death. But ultimately, Jesus did what Mary wanted him to do. As we talked about in Bible study this past week, I'm sure a big part of this is Jesus did what his mother told him. Jesus would have known the 10 Commandments well, so he would have known to honor his father and his mother. But also he knew what most of us learned growing up. You do what your mother tells you to do. But I think the beautiful part of this story is that Mary's insistence reveals that she knew who Jesus was. She heard what the angel told her about her baby when she was pregnant. She experienced Jesus growing up and knew there was something different about him. She knew what he was capable of. Mary truly understood that Jesus was God and the Messiah, and that through him, the whole world would be saved. And so Jesus acted. Jesus performed this sign that demonstrated that he was God and demonstrated the kind of God he is. And so the other unexpected aspect of this story is that it was through the servants and the trust they had in Jesus that Jesus was able to perform this sign. I'm sure that the servants were completely confused and annoyed that they had to fill up these huge stone jars with water. The servants were, of course, aware that they were out of wine. And so they probably had significant reservations about the bizarre request to fill the jars with water when they actually needed wine. Whether out of obedience or trust, they filled up those jars with water. And the result when Jesus took action was somewhere around 1,000 bottles of wine. So much really, really good wine. Jesus didn't just fix the problem of there being no wine. He fixed it to the max and to the highest quality. This is the kind of God that we have. One that keeps providing and providing and providing us with the very best. A God who creates something new. A God who gives us new life. A God who gives in abundance. What is revealed in the sign is that we also have a God who is present with us in all the parts of our lives. We have a God who transforms us and all of creation. And we have a God who provides new life in abundance. And I believe that these sorts of signs are continuing today, here and now, in and through this congregation. There are signs of who God is and what God is doing, and that God is indeed present with us. We still get these glimpses of Jesus' glory. Just like the disciples and the other wedding goers saw Jesus' sign of turning water into wine, we also get to see these glimpses of Jesus' signs that show us the abundant, new, and amazing life that Jesus gives us. Though sometimes it's hard to notice these signs. Sometimes the glimpses of God's glory become few and far between. There are many times in my own trust of God and God's actions in the world has wavered. I have doubted. There have been times when I lost sight of Jesus. But then there are other moments when I get to see these glimpses of Jesus' glory, and my trust is restored. The challenge of faith is to continue to trust in God, even in the times when we don't experience God's glory. It requires faith to trust that when and how you least expect it, we will get signs of Jesus' glory. If we listen and watch, we will continue to get these glimpses of the work that God is doing in the world around us. God continues to work in and through this congregation to bring new life, not only to us as individuals, but also to our whole community. Just like Jesus did something new in turning water into wine, Jesus is doing something new in this congregation. And just like Jesus provided so much of the best wine, Jesus is providing so many really good resources to this congregation. God has entrusted this congregation with abundant financial resources, with a big building and people connected to this congregation with so many skills and experiences and passions. God has provided a lot of really good new things to this congregation. Some recent examples include a huge gift to our endowment fund a year ago, a growing new partnership with Elevate Montessori, and all that we have learned and gained through hearing more from our community. And I know there are a lot more abundant gifts that God is going to continue to provide to this congregation. And so this is my prayer for our congregation, that we would know and experience ever more deeply that God is present with us and is transforming our lives with abundant new life. When we are weary, may God renew our trust and our hope through these glimpses of Jesus' glory. And may we be bold like Mary, to proclaim and demonstrate to the world around us that Jesus is present and is providing abundantly to all people. Let it be so. Amen.